What's the role of LinkedIn for lawyers?
Yeah, so it really depends on what type of lawyer you are. So we see like two kind of different profiles. One, we see like the personal injury, criminal defense, family law attorneys that are not going to get direct cases from LinkedIn necessarily. So they view the platform and we view the platform more so as like a way to stay top of mind within their referral network so that they can go to these conferences like GLM or go to PIMCon or go to any of these conferences and connect with these people in real life, but then also maintain that conversation on LinkedIn and keep in touch, right? So that's kind of see because those types of attorneys are going to get referrals from their referral network. And so we just want to make sure they stay top of mind. So if you're a personal injury attorney in Austin, Texas, then you want to be known. Like you want people in your network to remember that you're the PI guy in Austin.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. And it's great to have you all here today. We'll meet Jacob in 2 seconds. I just want to do a quick ad to tell you all about TGR Live, Growth Strategies for Law Firms. This is our live event. It's our third year. We're super excited. It's getting close. We have some awesome speakers, amazing ambassadors. And the one thing that I promise about TGR Live, if you can join us March 16th and 17th in Delray Beach, Florida, that everybody will get to know everybody. We do a bunch of interactive networking exercises, 2 cocktail parties. It's a ton of fun. So get it on your calendar if you don't have it already. If you want to check it out, go to 10goldenrules.com, our main website, and there's a link for TGR Live right at the top of the page. We'd love to have you with us in Delray Beach in just a couple weeks. So with that, I want to introduce my guest today is Jacob Molina from StoryLeads. And Jacob and I had a great conversation at GLM, Great Legal Marketing in DC, the Ben and Brian Glass event. And I learned all about really great copywriting for LinkedIn for lawyers. And Jacob only works with lawyers. He's going to tell us all about it. Jacob, welcome to the 10 Golden Rules Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Jade. Thanks for having me. It was great meeting you in DC and happy we can reconnect now.
So tell us a little bit about your story before Story Leads.
Yeah, so I've been in tech for the last 10, 12 years, basically building software as a product manager, various startups in the Bay Area, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Toronto and Montreal. I'm in Montreal, Canada right now. And so it was interesting is as a product manager in these tech companies, basically you're responsible for understanding the challenges that your clients are dealing with, customers are dealing with, and translating that into requirements for engineering teams to build out the solutions, right? The features that we know from the software that we use. And then once the engineering team would build out the software, I would ship it and we would ship it out and I would write the blog post, the release notes, all that information so that customers could understand how to use the product. And then the CEO would ask me, say, hey, can you also write me a LinkedIn post? I said, sure, why not? How hard could that be? So I started writing LinkedIn posts for them. And then they start getting a lot of traction. But the most interesting thing was that, so we were running LinkedIn ads and we were running email outbound campaigns, all from the founder's profile. And we noticed a couple of weeks after starting posting that the email outbound was performing better, like their open rates were higher. We noticed that the LinkedIn ads were performing better, the click-through rates were better. And we just like, what's going on? And we realized that the organic content that they were putting out on LinkedIn was building affinity and rapport with the audience. And so all the other channels were performing better as a result. And so that was super interesting. And so a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, I know you're doing all this LinkedIn stuff for these CEOs. My wife just opened up a law firm like about a year ago. She's a commercial litigator. She knows her people or her audience is on LinkedIn, but she doesn't really know how to work it. Can you give it a shot? I said, sure, why not? I interviewed her, wrote a couple stories, and was able to write for her on LinkedIn, and she blew up right away. And I knew right away that like writing for lawyers was so much more interesting and fascinating than any other profession that I'd written before because the stories were so good. And it made me realize that's why lawyers have so many good shows, so many shows on TV because the stories, like, even though they're exaggerated, like Suits and How to Get Away with Murder, it's the shows the found like
Those stories on Suits weren't real.
yeah. Well, I mean, you see Mike Ross practicing family law, criminal defense, and
Yeah.
all sorts of practice areas. It's
Yeah, it
pretty
was
wild.
funny
But
how on Suits, they'd always they'd buy a $1 billion company in about 24 hours.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everything's like really
Yeah.
quick and they do everything. But yeah, it's like it made sense right away. That's why they have so many shows, because the stories are so interesting. And what makes really good content is really good stories. And so I started writing for her, and then I got another M&A attorney reach out and wanting to us to write for him. Well, for me to write for them. And then I was still at my job working full time. And I had one paying client, which was the M&A attorney, because the other one I was just doing for free because I didn't know if I could charge, if I could do any of the work, generate results. And so on June 26th of 2024, so my dad had brain cancer and he passed that morning at 4 a.m. And so I got the call from my mom. And then
Sorry
at
to hear
9
that.
a.m. that same day, I got fired. And I only had one client. I wasn't ready to do the jump, but I told my wife who's on mat leave, we had two young boys and the mortgage, the car payments, all that stuff. I was like, pretty stressful time in our lives, but I wasn't ready to do the jump, right? I was dabbing into it. I wanted to do it like more and consistently, but not ready to do the jump. And that kind of forced me to it because I was like, I don't think I'm going to get another job. I think I could do this. And so we had a big, like a pretty big breakthrough in October that year. So I got two more attorneys. And in November, we signed up a plaintiff employment lawyer, which we completely blew up. She went from 800 followers to 20,000 followers in 10 days. She got 35 million, like things like 10, 15, $20 million in case value from LinkedIn. It was nuts. She became our biggest case study. And now we went from just me to now we have 11, 12 people on staff. We write for 75 plus attorneys. It's been a wild ride, especially the last year. It's been, everything's been kind of coming together.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss of your dad and even the job, but that pales in comparison. So I'm glad it all pushed you to where it sounds like you're in the right place. So, what are some of the basics for lawyers on LinkedIn? What's the role of LinkedIn and how do they set their profile up and their messaging up? Maybe that's
Yeah.
three questions. So,
Yeah.
basically, the first one, what's the role of LinkedIn for lawyers?
Yeah, so it really depends on what type of lawyer you are. So we see like two kind of different profiles. One, we see like the personal injury, criminal defense, family law attorneys that are not going to get direct cases from LinkedIn necessarily. So they view the platform, and we view the platform more so as like a way to stay top of mind within their referral network, so that they can go to these conferences like GLM or go to PIMCon or go to any of these conferences and connect with these people in real life, but then also maintain that conversation on LinkedIn and keep in touch, right? So that's kind of what we see, because those types of attorneys are going to get referrals from their referral network. And so we just want to make sure they stay top of mind. So if you're a personal injury attorney in Austin, Texas, then you want to be known. Like you want people in your network to remember that you're the PI guy in Austin for those cases, right? And then on
Yeah,
the other
because
side,
90% of everybody who went to law school is not in PI.
yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
even if you just your law school class, even if
Yeah,
those guys all sent you cases, that would
yeah.
be a win.
Yeah, you just don't want them to forget about it. That's really what it comes down to. And then the other side is like your corporate attorneys. So like healthcare attorneys that work with healthcare practices, dental practices, med spas, or if you're a trademark or an IP attorney, like that would be you deal with business owners. And the reason why the strategy is different there is because the business owners are on LinkedIn. So these tech founders, if you work with VC-backed startups, they're on LinkedIn. They spend time on. So you can talk, you can get direct business from LinkedIn if you target that audience and you write posts that are compelling to that audience. So two very different approaches. And so that's kind of what we think about. And so the main thing about LinkedIn, and this is why I start with this, is because you want to be clear about who you're writing for. That's the main thing. It's the same thing as a website. When you're writing copy, you want to make sure that you're writing to the person that you think is supposed to read this, right? If you're running a Facebook ad or if you're writing a blog post, right? And so LinkedIn's the same thing. You want to be clear on who you're writing for. Once you've identified who you're writing for, if it's other attorneys, referral networks, or if it's business owners, and you understand what their fears, dreams, wants, and aspirations are, then you can go in and revamp your profile. So that's how we think about you. You want to redo your featured section, about section, headline to make sure everything screams personal injury in Austin or medical malpractice in Michigan, or criminal defense in Florida. Like everything has to line up with that. On the other side, if you're a startup lawyer, then you want to say like everything from helping startups that do like startups that are seed funded all the way to Series A, is it A, B, C, whatever it is, and then what practice area specifically and how you help them. And so you tailor that profile to make sure that if a startup founder were to go on your profile, be like, yeah, Jay's exactly the type of attorney I was looking for, right? Or not.
So in marketing, we call it a USP, a unique selling proposition. So the first thing is you want to figure out who your target avatar is or target persona, who you're talking to. But I think what you're saying is you should be super focused on who you are, what you do, who your message is for and make your profile super focused.
Yeah, exactly. You want it to be clear so that when they land on the profile, they know exactly if you're for them or not. Because the last thing is you want to be like murky, gray, you're not sure if it's for them, and then they just won't take action if it's not clear enough. So even if it means repelling a bunch of people, that's kind of the point, right? You want to make sure you attract the right people, and the wrong people just don't move forward, right?
And sometimes it's a little tricky. Like one of our clients is in Kentucky, he's in the horse industry. He does a lot of corporate law. He wants more PI cases and he owns a brand of bourbon. So he struggles a little bit where the focus is. But what we say about websites is that there's the 2-second rule. And it used to be the 7-second rule that people decide within 2 seconds, and that guys generally take a lot longer, about 3 seconds. And that this is statistical, by the way. And what you want to communicate is who you are and what you do and what you'll do for them within about 2 seconds. And so you do that with the headline, with the graphic, the image, and your logo and your slogan. So the eye will typically go, and we use eye tracking studies. So the eye will go to that headline, that image, and that'll convey something. Then they might check the logo. Like we're trained, typically the logo's in that top left-hand position. The viewer's left on the screen, it's on the right. And they'll look at the logo, the slogan, then maybe they'll dig a little deeper and read some of the copy and whatnot. So you want to communicate very, very quickly who you are and what you do. Because if I'm looking for a personal injury lawyer and I land on a website and it's talking about horse racing and bourbon, they might hit the back button really quickly. You got 2
Yeah.
or 3 seconds. So you're saying it's essentially the same thing on your LinkedIn. Header image, your text, your title, all should convey very, very quickly who you are and what you do. And it should be messaged to fit with that target persona.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the bourbon and the horse racing stuff can be content, part of like the content, the stuff that you want to talk about so that you let people know who you are and what are some of your hobbies and stuff that because you may have mutual interests with other attorneys that do like horseback or like bourbon and they'll connect with you on that level because of that. That may lead to interesting conversations. But the profile itself, I would say I would put that aside for now.
So you got to be super focused and super clear. So talk a little bit about creating that clarity. Like how should someone write their descriptions in their profile?
Yeah. So, I mean, for the headline, we try to keep it really simple your practice area and your location. Like criminal defense attorney in Palm Beach, Florida, whatever those two things are, I would want to make sure those are covered. But we want to keep it simple. You don't want to make people think you see headlines like I help people when injured. And it's like by the time you get to what they actually help with, you're 50 characters down. And finally, it's the location. But when you're on LinkedIn, you're scrolling, the headline gets cut off there's only so much real estate, especially on the feed. So you want to be really clear really quickly on like what you do and how you do it. So on LinkedIn, when you scroll through the feed, you'll have about, I think it's 45 characters before it gets cut off. And so you need to get all that info at the very beginning. So that's why we recommend like PI or in Austin or whatever. So that's kind of the front and center thing that we put the practice there and the location so that people are clear about what you do.
And how important is the graphic that you create? Should
Yeah.
it include words and
Yeah, so the graphic is the biggest piece of real estate you have on your profile is your banner. And so a lot of people just have like a picture of their city or whatever. I think that's a missed opportunity because it's the single biggest piece of personalization you can add to your profile. And so there's way we think about it is like who you help, how you help, and what you've done. If you have 1,000 reviews on Google, just put those reviews up there and say the practice area you work on or in specific cases that you handle. And if you have testimonials now on LinkedIn, there's the banners now can change. Like you can swipe through the banners. So if you want to put testimonials on that banner 2, 3, 4, 5, go ahead. Kind of how we think about it. So yeah, I would definitely leverage the banner depending on if it's attorneys or business owners, like how you help them and what you've done in the past.
and what about the other parts of building your LinkedIn? Should people be reaching out and making connections? I used the example earlier of everyone in your law school class. Should you make it a point to literally connect with everyone in your law school class?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is a network, right? And so you're trying to connect with people that you've built relationships in the past, but you're also trying to create new relationships too, right? So if you go to a conference, like we connected on LinkedIn after we went to the conference, that's a good example. I would make sure to add all those people. Now, if you have prior relationships that you have maybe on Facebook, but they're not on LinkedIn, definitely add those people. Because like the thing with, especially in personal injury, come up, you don't know who's going to have a case to be referred. It happens, and then they call whoever's top of mind type of thing. Or they call their first lawyer they know, and then that lawyer refers that case over to whoever lawyer they have in their network. And so the more people you have in your network that are relevant referral partners, I would say I would encourage you to add them. And so, yeah, engagement on LinkedIn or being active on LinkedIn is not just about posting. It's not just about sending connection requests. It's also about writing comments, thoughtful comments on other people's posts that you follow. It's also about starting conversations in the DMs as well, direct messages. So if you see a thoughtful post and you want to go beyond the comment, and I would encourage you to send a message, say, hey, that post about being sober for the last 5 years, I mean, that really inspired me to whatever, you can share your thoughts there. And we see that all the time. And those deeper connections, a post is very it's one to many, right? It's you don't know who's going to read it, but when somebody goes back into the DMs and messages you, it feels very different because it's a one-to-one conversation. You know exactly who read that post and you got feedback on that post, and now you're having that one-on-one conversation. You can build rapport really quickly on those one-to-one conversations, unlike a way you can't at a large scale of one to many. So yeah.
So we're going to talk about working with a professional such as yourself in a minute. But again, the starter's guide, how often should I post and what should I post?
Yeah, so I would say start at least once a week. That's usually where we start. If you can get to 2, 3 times per week, that'd be pretty good. I wouldn't try to overthink it, overdo it. We used to post 5 times per week for our clients. And I realized it was really hard to maintain quality. And what we tell our clients now is when they see Jay on the feed, I want the people at LinkedIn to be like, damn, Jay always has something great to share. I'm going to read it. But the only way you achieve that is by putting out really high quality stuff. And so we want to make sure that you're putting out the best version of the story possible and not just posting for the sake of posting. And so if you have something worth sharing, post it. If 1 week you post once, the next week you post twice, and then the next week you post 3 times, that's fine. That doesn't matter. I wouldn't be too concerned about as long as you're consistent. If you could at least do once a week and hold yourself up to that, yeah. And then don't go too ambitious. Don't do I'll post every day of the week or 7 days a week. Once a week would be a good amount that to get you started. And then commenting is probably the highest leverage thing you could do as well too. It's if you're not ready to post, if it feels daunting or whatever, start with the commenting. You can think them as mini posts. Like people might see more of your comments than you see your posts, and so it's a great way to get visibility.
So you probably shouldn't do this, but I just shared my LinkedIn. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll ask Jacob for the quick critique. So this graphic at the top is the banner. And let's be very descriptive so people on the podcast. And so on my banner, I have keynote speaker, author, strategist, www.10goldenrules.com, internet marketing for law firms. And
Yeah.
that's text on a graphic. And the graphic or the banner is me speaking at a really large conference in DC. So I'm positioning myself as a speaker and expert. And then maybe you just want to comment on the banner first.
Yeah. You want me to tear apart your profile or?
Yeah. But
No,
let's do it one at a time
yeah.
so we can describe it for the folks
Yeah.
audio only.
So the banner at the top is what I was saying is the largest piece of real estate. So keynote speaker, author, strategist. I think the copy there is fine. I think that's better than most for one. But what I would say is the fact that you work with so many law firms, I would mention how many law firms you worked with. And then if you hit the edit on the pen on the top of the right corner, it'll allow you to add multiple other banners. And on the other banners on behind the scenes, which automatically swipe through as you spend time on them, and they'll show the testimonials of the other banners that you have. So yeah, this specific banner, I would say I would add basically the social proof. So if you have reviews, how many firms you've worked with, and I would say maybe the specifics about internet marketing that you help with. If it's SEO, it's PPC, whatever specifics you have that expertise, I would list it out. Yeah. And then the only thing I would make sure is you don't have too much copy on that banner because you also don't want to be the text be too tiny to try to cram everything in. So I would just focus on the most important services that you do and the kind of results you achieve.
Okay, great. And then I have a professional headshot. I picked one with no tie, but a suit jacket and a collared shirt.
Yeah, headshot's good. I would say the only thing I would do to that headshot is zoom in a bit more because on your profile, now we're on your profile big screen. We see your face pretty well. But when you're going on the feed, the profile picture gets really small. And so you want to make sure your face stands out so people would recognize you right away. So the only thing I would do there is just zoom in so like it's really cropped close to your collar or over your head, and that'd be perfect. You
Okay,
have the
great.
the plain background in the background, which is not a distraction. That's the only thing I
And
would
I've
change.
got Jay Berkowitz and I've got a check mark in a
Verified.
badge.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm verified?
That means you're verified. It means you did the authentication to make sure. Because LinkedIn doesn't want other Jay Berkowitz that are like spam and not spamming, but create fake accounts that appear to be you, but they're not. So by doing that verification allows that you are talking to the real Jay Berkowitz.
So you recommend folks get verified.
Yeah, if you can, I would just do it.
And you
Yeah.
can probably just Google LinkedIn verification or
Yeah.
search
Yeah. I
on
mean, just
LinkedIn.
you have the CTA, and LinkedIn will always ask you to do it.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to follow the steps.
So then below my name, I have a description. Is that what you call it? The
Yeah,
description?
that's the headline.
Headline?
Yeah.
So I have CEO, founder, 5-time author, 2-time Amazon bestseller, 10 golden rules, internet marketing for law firms, keynote speaker, advisor, board member, professor.
Yeah. So this I would change quite a bit. I think because the thing is, see, you see CEO, founder, 5 times author, 2 times. I don't know. Like if you're in the news feed on LinkedIn, in the feed on LinkedIn, I wouldn't be able to know what you do until I click on your profile. So I would want to have internet marketing for law firms at the front center. So it would be like CEO of 10 golden rules. And even that, I don't know if I'd necessarily put the brand. I would probably do like internet marketing for law firms, 10 golden rules after, because I want to be clear on who you help and how you help, right? That's the number one thing. So if internet marketing for law firms, like it doesn't get clearer than that. Like, you know exactly what you, now, if you want to be more specific, you talk about PPC, SEO, or whatever services. If there's an area that you specialize more in, then I would even do that.
And then the about and the
Yeah.
services. So the
About
about
section.
says, I'm the founder and CEO of 10 Golden Rules, digital marketing agency that helps law firms generate more qualified leads and clients, blah, blah, blah. How's that?
Yeah, the about section, I'm not too concerned about as long as it tells, I would say your story, like your background, how you founded 10 golden rules. I would go into like more of your personal story. So get people to know, because not many people will go to the about section and read it. But if they do, I want them to know more about you personally and how you got into 10 golden rules, and work your way from how you started, why you started, and some of the people you've helped, results you've generated, and like a clear next step as to what they should do next, whether it's go on your website, book a call, DM you, whatever it is.
And then under services, this is where we do have SEO, SEM, search engine
Yeah.
marketing,
Yeah,
web
that's fair.
design, executive coaching, public speaking, advertising, blah, blah.
Yeah. And you have the reviews there. If you can have more reviews, then I would try to get more reviews. But yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. All right. Well, enough about me, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the sections and not pick on any attorneys. But one thing you did mention is it's one thing to look at your description. And as you mentioned, it's when people are scrolling through their feed. So I did a search for personal injury attorney. And I guess what you see is you see basically just the name, the headline, the location, and that's it really. And then I happen to see who else I'm connected to, who's connected
Yeah.
to that person. It's really important that those elements without the banner, because the banner doesn't appear as I'm scrolling through, it's really your name and your headline that appears, right?
Yeah. You look at Jacqueline Shapiro, she says HR talent matchmaker. It's pretty clear, but you see how it gets cut off after matching the best HR
Yeah.
professionals? Boom, cut off. You can't see it. Right. That's why it's important to have everything at the very beginning. So if you go down, Fallon Stevenson, she got medical malpractice attorney. That's great. I would just put, I guess she's in Pennsylvania, right? So I would probably put that in Pennsylvania, right? Just that subtle difference will just let people know that where you practice and what kind of cases and where and which location.
All right. This is awesome. Thank you, Jacob. And for those of you not on the visual, obviously, you could just Google LinkedIn Jay Berkowitz, and I'll probably come right up in the top 2 or 3. Also,
Hopefully it'll
I
be changed by then.
apologize publicly again to Professor Jay Berkowitz and the chiropractor Jay Berkowitz, because you guys are probably super important to society, maybe even more so than me, but I always get the new social media first. So I got Jay Berkowitz and Jay Berkowitz Gmail. I get Dr. Berkowitz's Gmails all the time, but I always forward them back to the folks who sent them. Anyways, so those are some good basics for LinkedIn. Now maybe talk about some advanced strategies What should people be posting? How often should they be posting?
Yeah. So in terms of content, the way we think about, and we've put out like I think over 7,000 posts on LinkedIn. We write about 500 per month and post about 500 per month. So we have a good idea of what works and what doesn't. But essentially, what does really well is story driven content. Because I see a lot of content as like what I would call like generic AI slop, or like that you go on ChatGPT, say what are the top 3 things you should do when you get into a car accident, whatever. That content's kind of been overdone, and also it's not unique, right? Anybody could pull up that information or post about it, right? What we're looking for, what people on LinkedIn are looking for, and I say for LinkedIn, but really it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, any platform, is authentic, original content. And so what I mean by that is, can you share a case where those top 3 tips came up? Oh, we had this trucking accident, was a 16-year-old who got T-boned by a truck, like, and you can talk about the details of the case. And then the case was a bit harder to handle because these 3 things weren't accomplished or weren't done before hiring a PI attorney. And so these tips or these insightful information, you don't want to lead with them. You want to kind of lead with the story and then share the insights and the learnings within the body of the post. So not lead with that. And so that's kind of how we think about content. It's really about like story-based content. People want to hear unique stories. And the way we think about it is if they see you on the feed, they see that post, to be like, I got to read it now, or I'll probably never see it again because nobody else can post that story. It's Jay's story, right? And so that makes them compelled to read it right there and then. And that's what gets their attention. Because if it's something that's very generic, they feel like they can capture that somewhere else at some other time, or it doesn't really appeal to them. They're just going to scroll by it and get to the next post. And
Is there a
so
simple story template? How do you start the story?
there's many ways. There's many ways to think about it. One of them, and we use a lot, is, I forget the name for it we have, but essentially it's the curiosity gap. That's the one. The curiosity gap. So the curiosity gap essentially is sharing a bit of the beginning and the end, but not sharing the middle. And a good example of that are like Disney movies or any movie really. They show you the trailer, you kind of know how the movies are going to start, you know how they're going to end, but that's not why you go see the movies, right? You go see the movies to see what happened in the middle. And that's the part that they don't really show in the trailers or show just glimpse of it. And so you want to treat your LinkedIn post or your hook for any video format, LinkedIn post or YouTube video or Instagram, whatever post it is, platform it is, you want to give a bit of the beginning and a bit of the end so that people feel compelled to know what happened in the middle.
That's great. I love it. How do folks work with you guys? How much time do they need to spend to tell you the stories? And how frequently are you generally posting?
Yeah, so the way we do is, so we have a research team that basically goes and has labeled all the 7,000 posts that we have for our clients in the past. So per practice area, per location, per topic. And then what we do is we can basically prepare a 1-page document, a research from those top performing posts. And then the content pillars that you have and the content strategy we have laid out for you. Now we share that with a client in advance. And then on that call, we do the interview. And so the way we do the interview is typically say, hey, Jay, is there anything top of mind? Any case, anything that you've been thinking about that you think may be a good idea for a post that you want to share? And now kind of open up the mic that way. Now, if you don't have anything, because like on the spot, you're just like, I can't, because that's the thing with content. It's like, oh man, like you have it on the spot and then it goes, it's just fleeting, right? And so that's why we recommend if you can draw notes right away, like do it. Don't wait. If you're on the car, like do the voice note, do whatever we need to record that idea because it may just disappear and you're like, oh my God, what was that idea again? We prepare that 1-pager, we share that in advance with you, and then we ask you on that first call, is there anything top of mind? And then you share. And if there's nothing, then we fall back on the research. That's where we start asking you questions and we have conversations about like, so, I mean, the very beginning is easy because we don't know you. So we just start with, why did you pick law? Why did you get into PI? Were you always planning to launch your firm? What was your first trial like? How did it make you feel to depose a client? Whatever topic that we have that we'll go through very in depth. And so in those interviews, we are able to usually to extract 8 to 10 post ideas from that conversation. And sometimes we can go completely off script. The client will share something. We're like, oh, that's really interesting. We just dive deeper and we just forget about the notes. And that's so interesting that we just go deeper into that. And that's, I think, the powerful thing about like having these interviews is that you don't know what's interesting to other people because you're so stuck in the day to day that your life seems very like normal, right? You handle these cases every day, nothing special. But for somebody that's not practicing in your area or in your practice area or just this different work, those stories are super fascinating. And so that's why having somebody else, especially we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers. So we come from like a very different point of view, but we capture those stories and we're like, wow, this is super interesting. And sometimes our clients, well, I hadn't realized this was going to be a good post. And then we write a post and then boom, it's a banger. Like people go crazy for it. And it's a great story and it gets a lot of traction.
Give us one example case study of a personal injury attorney story you wrote and it blew up and what results got from that.
Yeah, so there's a post. This is probably our biggest PI post we've ever done was I found 98% of my cases straight to suit. And the reason that got so much traction is because I didn't realize there was so much debate between filing suit versus settling pre-suit. I didn't realize there's two sides of that coin.
Yeah.
And so people got really, really involved in the comments saying, no, we file suit right away. I totally agree with you. Or no, we always try to settle before. Like it doesn't make sense to file suit if you don't have to. Like it completely diverging up opinions. And that usually makes the post do really well. I can give you another example. And this is a really good example of like the curiosity gap. So we had a criminal defense attorney post this. The post started like this. My client had just shot and killed his brother. The prosecutor had offered him a deal. I urged my client to take it. He refused. And so that's the hook. So my client had just shot and killed his brother. That's the beginning. You know how it starts. And then you know he refuses. And so you know how it kind of ends, but you really don't know what's going to happen in the middle. And so that post, I think, did 140,000 views and about 3,000 people to engage.
Wow.
Yeah. Or coming back to the first post about the controversy or the debated opinions, those posts always do well, regardless of platform. And if you recall, the first big case study that we got from a plaintiff employment lawyer was exactly that. So she'd found me through a webinar I was hosting about LinkedIn, kind of like this. And she showed up, but she didn't ask any questions. And I remember her name and I saw her on my feed a couple of days later and asked her one question. I said, how's LinkedIn going for you? Like, you must be crushing it. Employment lawyer on LinkedIn, you must be crushing it. All the employees are there. And she said, no, it's really hard. So she jumped on the call and she shared her story. So she had dealt with retaliation, harassment, her previous job, which led her to quit and become a plaintiff employment lawyer. When I hear a story like that, first of all, it just sounds very different, very mission driven, just comes from a different place, right? She just wants to help the people that were in her shoes, right? And so I asked her one question. I said, are you okay if you never represent a defendant ever again? She said, yes, I don't want to, just plaintiff. I said, perfect. I said, tonight you're going to go to Amazon. You're going to buy a whiteboard. And you're going to write HR is not your phone on it. I'm going to write it on the whiteboard. And we're going to write this post. We're going to share your story in the post. I wrote the post. She wrote HR is not your friend on the whiteboard. She posted it that night. I always remember because she posted on Monday night at 7 p.m. PST. And I was like, at the time I was so obsessed with posting times because I thought they mattered really really much. And that post changed everything because at 7 p.m. PST, which 10 p.m. my time, the post blew up. It did 6.2 million impressions.
Wow.
And it's the craziest thing is she was at 800 followers and she went to 28,000 followers in 10 days.
Wow.
And mind you, she had a 3-month-old firm, no clients, no team, nothing, no paralegals, nothing, not even a VA, like absolutely nothing. Just starting from scratch, no referral network. She got slammed with, I think, 1,000 DMs in the first 7 days. It was like nuts. Like I couldn't even chat with her on LinkedIn anymore because my DMs were getting pushed down. And so which ultimately we had to deal with and go through every single DM.
She needed VA very quickly, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. And she got 90 cases, but she's only licensed in New York and California. She had to refer out 75, which helped her build a referral network pretty much overnight. And then she took on the 15 cases, which are estimated value about $15-20 million. This just came out at LA Times. She's suing Netflix for $6.5 million for wrongful termination, sexual harassment of a flight attendant on a private jet. Just
what a
crazy
great
stuff.
Case study. Thank you for sharing. So we've come to the end where we ask the quick one-liners, and we've done this for over 15 years. So just give us your quick answer too. What apps or techniques do you use for personal productivity?
The biggest one right now is Fixer.ai, Fyxer.ai. It changed my inbox completely. Help me auto draft, prioritize label. My inbox used to be a mess, and now it's organized. I was going to hire a VA just to help me like sort out my email, and then I found that tool, life changer.
1,000% improvement. Do you have a personal wellness or fitness routine?
No, I have 2 young kids. They keep me very active, and so
Chasing the kids.
I get it.
What do you recommend as the best business books?
Oh, that's the good ones. I like 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I think that's like fundamentally like very interesting coming from the tech background. But there's another one I think Crossing the Chasm is also a very solid one. But yeah, those would be some of my 2 favorite ones. And any Russell Brunson book, to be honest, those are all a few.
Blogs, podcasts, YouTubes. What do you subscribe to? And when it hits your feed, you stop everything and listen to?
When I'm driving, I always listen to Alex Ramos's podcast, The Game. There's always value in like actionable insights. And then the other podcast I started listening to is Running Glasses podcast. I love like hearing the guests on there. I think they're super interesting. Great questions.
This is an easy one. Who's your hockey team?
Montreal Canadiens. And they're doing pretty well this year. So
Yeah. Do you have another, like an NFL team or a sports team?
I have been golf and hockey are my two sports.
Yeah.
I just love playing golf. I haven't played much, but the boys are starting to play now. So I'm hopefully gonna get a membership soon and take them out. But yeah.
I was just actually at a hotel and David Duval and Bernard Longer were there. They're playing the senior masters and all the 50 plus guys were rolling in. Ernie Els was there at dinner.
Yeah.
So what's a great introduction for you? If you see someone, an attorney, and they need Jacob's help, what's a great call out?
Yeah. So I guess any personal injury, family law, criminal defense attorney, those are the ones we do. They really crush on LinkedIn because we get tons of cases for them. And so, yeah, that just reach out on LinkedIn and we'd love to have a chat. And honestly, we love hearing the story. So we'll just I'll get on calls and interview lawyers, whether they're our ideal client or not, just to hear the story and write the post about it. Because honestly, it's just a lot of fun to write those stories and see how well they do.
Last question, where can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn. You can email me at jacob@storyleads.io if you don't have LinkedIn, but if not, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'm always there, pretty much spend my whole work 9 to 5 on there. But yeah, that's the best place.
Jacob, some great stories. Thanks for sharing. It was great having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love sharing the stories and happy to connect.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENGoldenrules.com.